secrets lie. Maybe I can make it right. Sit down close to baby, we can talk about it. No need to be mad.
Hello everyone. Dawnbreaker 10, Frosty K, Breath of Sindragosa build. Let's go. Finally, took me way too long to time this one, since it's actually one of the easier ones, but something always went wrong on this market area with the failed pulls. Going in, first pull, usually the bigger one, with Bloodlust, or not in this case I think. Use all your stuff before the pillar window, so Abolimp, Remorseless Winter, Reaper's Mark, and then Boon Weapon, Pillar, Breath, and just use all your procs. Prioritize the double killing machine procs, of course, and always use stuff that generates runic power, of course. We want to keep our breath up as long as possible. AMS also very helpful, since the damage you take is converted into runic power, so very useful. You can see here, I don't know what the spike was, a few million. 2.6 over for this pull, very solid. Breath of Sindragosa actually can maintain high damage for a very long time. You have to be careful when you get aggro. It's always a very delicate situation, because I don't want to use the Death Strike and destroy my breath window. But on the other hand, when you're dead, you deal no damage. And at the moment, to be honest, M+ is so punishing regarding deaths. It's disgusting. Not really the biggest fan of this. It's more like, I don't know, it's an additional punish for when you die, and then it's like 15 seconds on top of losing all your CDs, potentially Bloodlust, etc. But yeah. I think the tank was a good one in here. Usually a lot of tanks, yeah, they just die. Because the mobs are hitting like trucks, also with their white damage, so with their normal auto hits. So it's very tough. Played a few keys as a blood decay. Very stressful, to be honest. Extremely stressful. Yeah, anyway, your CDs, just basically use them on cooldown, like Pillar and Reaper's Mark should be available basically every pull, depending on how much damage the group has and how quickly the packs die. And then of course Breath of Sindragosa and Rune Weapon. So the 2-minute CDs at least every third pull. Yeah, the mage is complaining about the damage. He should be happy. At least we time this one. Or don't, or do we? Maybe let's keep it exciting for you. Of course, I would not upload it if it would be a shit show, to be honest. But yeah. So again here, Pillar, Reaper's Mark, Remorseless Winter, and then just Death and Decay, and use all your procs. Killing Machine, and oh, I just love the scythe. The animation and the sound, it's just way too good. Every time you just use that bad boy, the damage done, it just creeps upwards. It feels so good. Rest here, not very excited. I also tried a little bit of Riders, Frosty K. It's also decent. I like it. It's a little bit low maintenance. I mean, you lose one spell, the Reaper's Mark, and you get a little bit of mobility, so it's kind of fun for lower keys. The normal Obliteration build, so without Breath of Sindragosa, is also fine. It overall also deals very solid damage, a little bit less, but you basically have your cities every group and not just every 2 or 3 groups with the Breath of Sindragosa, but still overall it deals a little bit less damage. But sometimes Breath feels, especially in the lower keys, it feels like overkill, because you can maintain such high damage values for such a long time, and when the mobs just die very quickly, it's a little bit wasted. So Frosty K. Ooh, the tank dies. Yep. There it was. As a Frosty K, I was just talking about how tanky we are. I guess not tanky enough. I mean, usually I always play with Movie Star here, and the moment the tank dies and he has some defensive ready, so like Iron Bark, I get that and I use my defensive and we can... yeah, we are pretty much trained in off-tanking a bit now. You know, like me just pressing Death Strike and he just upping heals up my ass. But in this case, it was a bit too much damage from the mobs. So first boss, nothing special here as a melee or as a Frost Decay. The next bosses are more interesting regarding your AMS usage. Here it's just stay alive. Always nice to use AMS in this phase because of there's some incoming AE damage, and so you get a little bit of runic power, which is good for the Breath of Sindragosa window. Otherwise, use everything on CD. I also switched to Soul Reaper in the, what is it, like general in the class talents. I kind of miss the Wraith Walk or the Grip of the Dead a bit, depending on the situations. But in hierarchies, I can feel it, to be honest. Especially since at the end of the pack, Frost Decay, depending on how many procs you have, can be a bit, how to say it, resource starved. So since we are not stacking haste, rather than we are stacking crit mastery, so our rune and auto hits suffer. So our runic generation, or rune generation, now I have it. And so we can be a bit stat starved at the end. And so having a spell that just uses one rune is kind of valuable, like below the 35% health mark of the bosses. So I switched to Soul Reaper there. And so far I don't regret it, to be honest. I think I will keep playing with it a bit. I'm not 100% sure right now how much ooh, okay, damage died. And I sound like an owl. Okay, Battle Res. Was it a wasted one? I don't know. 90 million. Best to just commit. I mean, before starting this key, we all agreed that even if we don't finish, we will... I mean, even if we don't finish in time, we will still finish. For the vault, the plus 10's out time also still valuable. Here I'm actually holding my CDs. Since 80 million without an AUG, you always have to take this into consideration, because we have 3 DPS and 90 million is not that much, so I'm holding my breath. Holding my breath. Okay, what the fuck? Pun actually not intended. But since after this boss fight, of course, I know that there will be a bigger pull coming. So I'm definitely sitting on my breath, not holding my breath. Awkward waiting period. Ooh, that was close on the tank. That's exactly what I mean. Oh, when the mobs go to the tank and they all just punch him in the face at the same time. Okay, we are blasting Death and Decay. Obliterates, 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 Scythe. 5 million. Can I get a 6? Can I... No? 5-3? 5-3? 5-4? 5-3? Unfortunately not. But it's okay. I mean, you can see the damage is just insane. Little Death Strike in the end. Just to get some healing. I've seen tanks approach this room from the back or from the front. This position I'm not the biggest fan of, where the tank just doesn't move. So as a melee we have to move out and cannot attack the boss. I mean, not the worst thing. Here, nice thing with AMS, you can just block the debuff. So as soon as the guy targets you, and you can see AMS, and it is gone. Really nice for the healer. I'm not sure if I could just stand in there with Lichborn, because it is a fear, And there are some other AoE fears in the game. They actually deal damage, but it basically comes after applying the fear. So when you don't get the fear, you don't get the damage. This was, for example, for the boss in Throne of Tides. Maybe I should try it, but maybe not on a 10. Maybe I will try it on some Lord, just for fun. And then get flamed because it did not work and it is still one-shot.
They try to defile our faith. Instead, you have weakened their command.
Next come the more critical situations. Not really from a kick or damage or heal perspective, but just from a positioning point of view. With don't fail pull. I mean here, right now not, but coming up the house down there. So like the next two mini bosses, the areas where we are fighting them. It's just the fail pull potential is so high and usually something happens and one wipe with the current timers. Ooh, yeah. Frontal. Here you actually have to be careful with the frontal from these tacticians. The word frontal there is not really the case. Because when you stand behind them, very closely, you get hit by the frontal. Happened to me in the last Dawnbreaker +10, which we did not time. Not just because of this, but yeah, this kind of tilted me. The frontal, which was not really a frontal. In this area you have to be really careful with your dragons. And I'm not just talking about the big one, I'm also talking about the whelpling you summon when you activate your pillar. I've seen a few inexperienced Frosty Case pull with the whelpling. Also like in Stonewall through the walls, etc. There the tank dies, and now it's, yeah, you can immediately see this, bam, I got a bark. And now it's just kiting, keeping my runic power. Basically, okay, the DH also had, the DH has some micro problems at the moment. Also solid kiting by him. Tank is back. Whew, kinda worked. Very dangerous. Like, wiping here could already be the key. Like, a full wipe. With all the mobs healing back to full. Would basically be it. Yeah, but what I was talking about, like this area and the area, the market, the favorable potential for Frosty K is so high, and I don't know why Blizzard is not changing it. That these shitty dragons just don't deal damage to mobs that are outfight. It's the same with a lot of different skills. I mean, when you're Frost Mage and you put your, what is it, Frozen Orb somewhere, it's also not pulling any mobs that are patrolling through there. So, but as a Frosty K, I usually run through the mobs, turn around, use my stuff, and then can position behind the mobs again. Which is a little bit dangerous by itself, because of the frontals. Yeah, there are no AMS ready, so I have to eat the debuff. No problem. Just use a Death Strike here and there. Make it easier for the healer. I'm always a bit also in the boss fights when I have to play all the stupid mechanics because I get all the debuffs. I'm always a bit frustrated, and then afterwards I'm happy. Because as a DK, you can take one for the team. And if that's what it takes for the hunter, for example, to stay alive, then for the DK to get all the debuffs, then I'm fine with it. Even though we don't have a hunter, you know. I have to drink something. I mean, it's still very early in the day, but I don't know, do you like to drink more coffee or energy? For me, it's like very early in the morning, I always start with coffee, but at some point when you want something colder, the energy just comes crawling in from the back, sneaking. Yeah, these big spiders there we just played very annoying. I rarely see tanks pull them. Because very punishing if you don't kick them and you have to run out of the AoE, which is like a one shot. So it's hard to group them with anything. But yeah, I don't complain. As long as we get all the percentage in time and the tank is not dying, I'm fine. Especially at the moment with the tanks feeling a bit soft. Kind of struggling a bit to stay alive. So I just do my job as a DPS and deal damage. As much as I can. Here and there kick some. Okay, next mini boss. Very dangerous. When you have the dark orb, make sure it goes through this tunnel. And don't do it like I did and eat the ball. Because you can see at the top right I have a very nasty debuff. Yeah. Death strike. Necessary there because I, for no reason at all, just walked into this purple orb. But yeah, the further this orb travels, the less damage it deals. And even then, it deals a shitload. Also here, the debuff you get from this one can be blocked by an AMS in advance. Did not have it. Here, had to use Death Strike again. Maybe I have to use another one. But I also always have my pot ready. I think I should use my AMS here. Yep. Definitely use AMS here to also block the debuff. And the AoE coming. Also was holding my cities there for the last, I don't know, 10-15% of the boss. Here make sure as a DK you hit the tank and group these mobs. Maybe there's a good position to LOS them so that they're all coming. But when you have a DK in the group, you can hold your abomination limbs for this. Yeah, also good kick there from Movie Star. Healer playing with the group, also very important. Especially when you don't have anything to do. You can deal damage as a healer, but I would say it's more important to use your kick, stun, etc. Solid damage. Okay, to 5 million again. It's always very hard to focus on not pressing the forced strike when the breath is running. I have to admit, rarely it still happens to me. And then I am sad. But then I remember 2 minutes after that I have a second chance and I am happy again. Or something like this. Yeah, regarding Frostworm's Fury, so the big dragon, you can see on the left below my health bar I am tracking my strength, which is usually a good indicator for me to see when I should use it. I try to use it, yeah, I was waiting so long for strength proc, so I was like, whatever, I just use it now because I have 5 mobs. And I think, maybe now, do I go up? No. Yeah, so it's basically always just some, find the path between hitting enough mobs and using it as buffed as possible. So I'm tracking my strength, or you could just use it as a rule at the end of your pillar window. Also fine. But it's not your main damage dealer. Okay, there we go. Also not the best positioning for me, because I got the debuff. 2 more steps back. But since we're a DK, we can use AMS and a pot, and we are safe. Of course, this debuff could also have, I think I have to use another. No. Yeah, I was crying in Discord like, heal me, because I could not death strike because I had the breath running. And since the ads were just spawning, it was so crucial that it would be still running for that at least a little bit. Yeah, nice kick. Kick some of the ads. Pretty simple boss, I would say, as long as the healer is meeting the heal checks and the people position themselves correctly for the orb. Because one orb immediately going into a wall is just wipe. That's just it then. I mean, look at that. Half-life. And this thing was going for a while. Below 35%. Type orb on me. Ah, see, I learned from my mistake. Walk back. No debuff. So yeah, after 35% I try to use the Soul Reaper as often as possible. Ooh, tank going down there. We were a bit... Okay. Let's just say we were a bit lucky that this guy was in his animation. I would expect for the tank to immediately taunt there. Maybe he was not paying attention to that. I'm not taking that battle as that would be a complete waste. But yeah, I could have used my defensive CDs in advance, but to be honest, it was not shown that I have aggro. But yeah, could have survived that, because that would have given me the chance to at least use a death strike and the tank then to taunt. But so far, 13 deaths, no full wipe, that's important. No mobs regenerating. 6 minutes left. It is a tight one with this Architect and this Rasha'nan coming up, but definitely doable. Because here AMS when you get targeted. Hold your hands for the ads. As a DK, very nice. Now Abolim, Death and Decay, and just cleave them. Breath still running, still okay. That's out. Nevertheless, solid damage. During the Rasha'nan fight, so the next fight, AMS is a very dangerous skill. Not only for the boss, because you can literally block all the debuffs, but also for you, because even though it looks like you are blocking all the debuffs, you are actually not. Meaning, these acid waves. When you have an AMS running, the moment he distributes the debuff, so that one person has to run out with the acid wave there, it looks like nobody has it, and in that case you can be sure that you have it. Because in a way it is blocking the debuff, so it is not visible, but after a few seconds the wave is still spawning. Absolutely disgusting. Cost us a key at some point, because I just had my AMS running, and yeah, this would then not be visible. And then the debuff went out and nobody had it, and I was like, okay, that's definitely on me, because the same thing happens with this web debuff in phase 2. When you have your AMS running and this goes out, it looks like you don't have it, but a few seconds later you spawn this big web puddle on the floor, which is also yeah, very bad, because it deals a lot of damage and it is huge. So here, always be careful with the AMS. AMS here, for example, is nice. It blocks the debuff there, but it's very dangerous to use there because of this. The rolling acid comes afterwards. And if you have your AMS running and you get this debuff, you basically have to gamble. Do you go left or do you go right? The last time I had that, I went left when I should have been going right. Yeah, here using breath was actually a waste, but it happens every time to me. Just, it's not going into my head when this guy is going into the next phase. What you can do here is just take one orb below the bridge and just fly through to the final area of the fight. Because there's the light again, and then you just sit here, you wait, and it basically takes the boss, I think, 20-25 seconds more until he arrives. 3 minutes left, no bloodlust, definitely a tight one. I would say 1 death and that's it. Oh, this knockback, so annoying. Yeah, I know, I could have used my death advance in advance. But this is the fine-tuning. The fine-tuning. Takes some time. Yeah, this is the debuff when I would use my AMS to, quote, prevent that. I would not really prevent it, but just rob me of the information that I actually have it. So this is one of these fights where you don't want to use your AMS proactively to block debuffs, but reactively to block damage. So for example, when you already have the debuff, so you don't get the stun from this poison wall. You can block it with AMS. There we go, again me. AMS, so I don't get any damage. Bring this out. Ooh, mage going down. Okay, city's running. Always make sure when you activate Breath of Sindragosa that you have at least 70 runic power. Otherwise, sometimes you just start it, you don't have enough haste or enough procs, and it just runs out. So you're losing a lot of damage. Yeah, again me, of course. Rip breath. Going in there. Pot. Yeah, I have to support. Yep, and I have to run over. No problem. That's what I mean with very angry that I have to play all this stuff as a not really mobile melee, but on the other hand, I survived this as a blood decay. Lots of defensive, health potion, death strike, whatever. Maybe another class cannot, so I'm taking that one. And again, the next one, not a problem. Oh, is it a problem? Ooh, oh, that death strike. That range of that death strike. Man. Okay, I mean, at some point it's just not so. I should have recorded the Discord there. Yeah, and that's it. Ooh, even 40 seconds. Now, the last nice thing in this dungeon. Come on, yeah, and we're dead. just to drive up the repair cost a bit. Because why not? So always make sure you have all the percentages before that, before the boss fight. Otherwise you lose a minute when this happens. I don't know when this happens, and it just happens sometimes. Not all the time, just sometimes. Yeah, Mage was asking about his damage. I mean, I would say everything above 1 million is fine when you play well regarding survivability and interrupts, and it can also be masked a bit when you have a lots of prio damage, like when you looked at last MDIs with the Shadow Priest Fire Mage combination, with like the Shadow Priest having 4 times the damage just because it was just destroying all this little stuff that may not be even the important part in the groups, because it's important that the big guys just die. That's why Frosty K is also nice, because it has a good combination of really AoE damage and the prio damage with all the obliterates. So yeah, I would say it was fine. I mean, we timed it. So yeah, here you can see the talents. Very standard for hierarchies. As I said, I'm going with the Soul Reaper and also the anti-magic zone to support the healer. For lower keys, I'm going out of the anti-magic zone and use some more mobility, like the Wraith Walk, etc. And the right tree is pretty much set. Here's the gear. Nothing too fancy. And the damage distribution. Obliterate being at the top in this case. Hints to more smaller groups. And yeah, that's it. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. And see you in the next one.